Right. I'll just show my video very briefly while I say good evening to everyone and distinguished Nigerians, both home and abroad. Welcome to another edition of the People's Parliament, powered by the Initiative for Good and Informed Citizenship, aka Rescue Nigeria. You're all welcome this afternoon. Tonight's session asks a very simple but powerful question. Is Nigeria getting better? This is a citizen's review of the Tinubu administration, and that's 2.5 years after inauguration. We're here to examine the facts, interrogate policies, and hear from citizens. This is your platform. This is your parliament. So let us begin. I'll now introduce the panelists that we have with us this evening. The first person I'll introduce is Mr. Muyiwa Kayode. Mr. Kayode is a branding guru, author, journalist, and a consummate entrepreneur. He is the creator of Life Anima and the author of Brand Nation and 7 Dimensions of Branding. Mr. Kayode is a creator who has more than 2 decades of marketing communications and brand management experience, having worked on numerous local and international brands. He co-founded USP in 1998, and by 2001, the company was pioneering the evolution of brand management consulting in Nigeria. In 2003, the company officially repositioned as Nigeria's premier brand management consultancy with a mission to help its clients build globally competitive brands. A graduate of University of Lagos, Mr. Kayode has attended the consumer marketing strategy as well as the business-to-business marketing strategy courses at the prestigious Harvard Business School, and he's passionate. He's a passionate jazz guitarist. We may ask him to serenade us at some point. He resides in Nigeria with his family. Welcome, Mr. Kayode, to this session.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. The second person I'd like to introduce is Professor Babatunde Oke. Professor Babatunde Olufemi Oke is a distinguished scholar in developing finance and financial markets. He currently serves as the head of Department of Finance at the University of Lagos, with academic credentials that includes a BSc and MSc in economics, an MSc in finance, and a PhD in finance, all from Unilag. He brings over 3 decades of experience spanning academia, banking, and consulting. Professor Oke is a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants, an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, and a member of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment UK. He is deeply embedded in both academic and professional finance communities. Professor Oke has published widely in reputable local and international journals. He actively bridges academia and industries through his consultancy work with financial institutions and organized private sector groups, offering strategic insights in areas such as capital markets, development finance, and investment strategy. Professor Oke also serves on the board of Unilag Consult Limited and previously on the board of the Human Resources Development Center, further bridging academic experience with industry practice. Outside his professional commitments, Professor Oke is a devoted Christian, a family man, and a respected mentor in both academic and business circles. You're welcome to this session, Professor Oke. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. And the last but not the least person that I'd like to introduce our panelist, Mr. James Aderoju. Mr. Aderoju is an architect by profession and a instruction consultant for the United States Department of Defense, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the U.S. Naval Facilities Engineer System Command. He is dialing in all the way from the USA this afternoon, and we welcome you, Mr. Aderoju, to this panel. And good morning to you.
Thanks for having me, and good morning, fellow panelists, everybody in Nigeria. I say hello.
Thank you. I hasten to add that Mr. Aderoju is a respected critic and public policy analyst, but he's a deeply committed Nigerian and a lover of our country. So we're happy to have him here with us this afternoon. I will just quickly go through the ground rules for this afternoon. The dialogue is, the aim of it is for it to be friendly, to be cordial. We need to have a respectful dialogue. We need to listen to one another, please. We need to hear one another. And we need to respect everybody's views and their comments. We will respectfully ask that if you're not talking, that you please mute your audio. And when you have finished answering your question, please be kind enough to yield to your fellow panel members who may want to make comments about your views. Mostly, we will ask all audience who may be joining us, wherever they are, to post their questions into the comment section, and our standing moderator, Mr. Chris Olatunde Odediro, will then have a look at some point towards the end of this session to bring in some of the questions that the listening audience members might pose to the panelist. So over to you, Mr. Tunde Odediro. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wale Croft. We'll go into the questions now without much ado. And we'll begin with general performance. First, I would like to say that we know this is a very contentious topic that we're dealing with today. Nigerians fall into different classes, different groups, different mentality. All across WhatsApp, especially, you see people being seriously divided over whether the administration is doing well or not. One of the reasons we've waited for this long is to have sufficient time to really be able to make evaluations. Right from the second day of Tinubu's administration, some people already started evaluating him. But we knew that we needed to have an appreciable time. And after 2 years, we believe this is the right time to begin to look at where we started 2.5 years ago and where we are today. So the first question is going to go to you, Muyiwa Kayode. Let's begin with general performance. In your view, how would you rate the administration's leadership and handling of the government so far?
That's a very, very broad question to be able to capture in a few minutes. But in terms of having a government that is clearly that is intentional, that is clearly showing direction, I will say yes, this government is showing direction. Some of the policies may not be popular with the generality of the people, but I think it takes a great deal of courage to take certain unpopular but necessary decisions. It takes conviction. I think the way the government has introduced some of the policies it is implementing are very, very courageous, and from an informed point of view, some of these policies are absolutely necessary. I know that there's a lot of talk about the pains of reform and how this is biting hard on the generality of the people, which is quite understandable. Everybody is feeling the pinch in one side of their foot or another, including me, who is speaking here today. But the most important thing for me, and the most important question for me, is whether the country is headed in the right direction. And I think we are. There are highlights of government policy that shows that we actually do have a government that we can be proud of. When we talk about the foreign policy, we see the way the government responds, and we think that yes, this is a decisive and courageous government. The two most contentious policies, which is the withdrawal of fuel subsidy as well as the harmonization of the foreign exchange markets, those are the two most contentious policies, which have actually resulted in economic hardship to a lot of people. Again, these are necessary policies, even though I have to, pay a lot more when I need dollar. I know that somebody somewhere is not getting it for half that amount. And the same thing for the removal of fuel subsidy. I don't remember the last time we had to queue for petrol. Right now, even the NNPC has an app, a mobile app that tells you where you can buy fuel, which retail outlets is nearest to you. And that is the NNPC. When usually this time of the year, end of the year, we are queuing for fuel, and you have to know a manager at one retail outlet before you can even get fuel or jump the queue if you don't want to queue for hours or days, So I know that we are paying more for the fuel now than we used to pay, but it is available and it is economically viable for those who want to invest in that sector. So when we look at some of the basic indices, because one of the things a lot of the critics of government say is that, look, these reforms are not biting too hard on the people. Cushions are not put in place to ease the pains of the reform, especially on the common people on the street. But there are facts to the contrary, and some of those benefits may take a while to manifest. But I am definitely personally convinced that the country is headed in the right direction.
All right.
I'll pause there for now.
All right. Thank you very much. The country is headed in the right direction. Let's go over to the next panelist, Professor Babatunde Oke. We want to go deeper into the economy, a major concern for every Nigerian. We floated in Naira against other currencies, and as Muyiwa Kayode said, and we've removed the fuel subsidy. Have these really delivered the benefits in terms of both in microeconomic and macroeconomic terms? Are these sustainable? Are they good for the people? Are they going to be sustained? What are your views?
Well, thank you very much. I want to concur really with the first panelist, with the views of the first panelist. President Tinubu came in forcefully from day one. He was firing from, with all cylinders, and you could see the direction the government was going. Yes, the policies are biting hard on everyone. In fact, from day one, you could see the inflationary impact of those pricing policies. It was changing, removing, the subsidy, and of course, unifying the exchange rate. These are key pricing policies that definitely impacted, inflation. For instance, has been biting very hard since then. Exchange rate volatility has been with us, though we have stability kind of, at least this year, has been stable around 1.4, 1.5 for some time now. One thing about inflation, about exchange rate volatility, actually has to do with the fluctuations. When people know the price, they can plan. Okay, they can plan and do their things and all that, the pricing policies of manufacturers and all that. But by and large, the figures don't lie, basically. We could just look at what happened at inception, the key indicators at inception and what we have presently. Yes, of course, at inception, the inflation, headline inflation stood at 22.41%. And at the point, in November, actually, 2024, it went up to 34.6%. That was pretty high. But today, it has moderated. It stands at 16.05%. But then that has not really trickled down to the people. Prices are still high and all that. But we're seeing that it's coming down. We still have 2 digits inflation rate, which is not too good. That is in terms of headline inflation. You also have the food inflation, which concerns virtually everybody, especially the poor people. At inception, it was 24.82%. And at the point, it was even higher than the headline inflation. It went to 39.93%. That was pretty steep. But today, it's coming down. It has actually come down to 13.12%. I must say that this reduction has a lot to do with the rebasing that was carried out, changing, of course, the base year and all that. We've seen what I'm saying, in fact, is that, yes, there has been an increase, immediate increase in the inflation rate as a result of these policies, but you can see they are coming down, the rates are coming down, prices are coming down, not as we expected. Okay, not as we expected. You still have, it's still be higher than the pre-2023 rates, but they are coming down. With respect to the exchange rate, of course, we all know what happened when Tinubu took over. At inception, at that time when he took over, it was like 461 to $1. That's the official rate. And just the parallel market rate was around 760 to the dollar. You could see that gap, okay, between the official rate and the parallel market rate. There was arbitrage. People are we have this round tripping. People are making so much money. Just like I said, the first panelist talked about that. Some guys are making so much money. You can buy at 461, pick it up at 461 at the official rate and sell at 761. At that time, that is pretty stiff. That is rent seeking. People are making so much money, arbitrageurs, speculators, and all that. But today, the gap has closed considerably, though they are not the same. Sometimes you don't have consistency about the same rate, but you have the difference is just about maybe 10 naira or thereabout. So today, the exchange rate has gone down. The official rate is now about 1.452 to $1 as at November 2025. And the exchange rate, the parallel market rate is about 1.460. You can see that the gap is not that much. At some point, of course, we know the parallel rate went as high as 1,009 to $1. 1,009 to $1. That was pretty high. That's happened around in 2024, maybe like February 2024. But now it has stabilized. It has come down to that 1,004, 1,005, and it's been like that for a while. So basically, it's been biting hard. Okay, the policies have been biting hard. But we do know that the central bank government also has been doing a lot, especially using monetary policy. Though the challenge I have with that is the fact that government is doing so much at the using monetary policy instruments to be able to tame, inflation and exchange rate volatility. But what we have on the fiscal side isn't too encouraging. Okay, we still have some fiscal recklessness and what have you. So I would just say that for now, the major issues with respect to inflation, exchange rates, they went, over the roof at inception, but they are coming down, they are moderating. We should not forget, of course, that there has been GDP growth rate has also gone up. At inception, when Tinubu took over, it was like 2.31%. That's at Q1 2023. But as we speak, Q2 2025, it has, risen to 4.23%. That means there is increase in productivity. But the question is, has it trickled down to the people? When we're talking about productivity, we're also looking at the income. Are people better off in terms of income? The standard of living, has it gone up? And things like that. Of course, there are other areas we need to examine in terms of the indicators, talking about external reserves. At inception, external reserve was about $35.09 billion. That is around I think in May 2023. But as we speak, it stands at $44.6 billion. That's the highest in 7 years since 2028. We also look at other issues like oil production. Oil production was 1.18 million barrels per day when Tinubu took over. It's now like 1.66 million barrels per day. We can see an increase in that. That means more revenue for the government. What about debt? Public debt stock, for instance, has risen. Of course, it stood at something like 87.38 trillion when Tinubu took over, whereas its peak is about 152.4 trillion naira. We can see the effect of exchange rates, depreciation that has affected, of course, that, and of course, continuing borrowing by this government. So I will say, Tinubu administration took very bold decisions at inception, though I'm one of those that criticized the sequencing, the way and manner the thing was done, especially the fuel subsidy reduction. But we've seen that there has been stability, macroeconomic stability. We've seen, more respect. We've seen the government as, when it took over, you also have backlogs of effects, commitment, and the government was able to clear all this. Quite a lot of destabilization when the government took over. We were actually heading towards bankruptcy, and it had to take that decision, or those decisions, as it were, to be able to bring back macroeconomic stabilization using those reforms and what have you. Things have been hard, and they are still hard, but things are getting better. Inflation is still high, exchange rate is still high, but I must say that we've the worst is behind us. The worst is behind us. I think that we should be moving. We should be having dividends going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Okedi. That was a lot. You really covered the economy at great length there. Please continue to drop your comments in the chat window. There was a comment from Wally Croft that it was a last Buhari-led government that put in place the fuel subsidy removal for the Tinubu APC government to enact. given that they need this, the issue that the people feel that they didn't plan for how to cushion the impact of this on everyday people. And you also asked if things are getting better for who really. Now, one of the comments I've had a banker make in recent times was that there is a lot of money flowing from the federal account to the states. So there is a lot more money to spend in Nigeria today by the various arms of government. But he pointed out that there is still a lot of corruption, that the money is not really getting to the people. The projects that need to be executed are not being executed. Mr. James Aderoju, in many of your comments, you touch on institutions, the institutional foundation necessary for development. You touch on corruption, how corruption fleeces an economy and makes things worse for people. If you are to cast a look at what's been going on in the last 2.5 years, do you think Nigeria is putting in place the right kind of institutional framework to move things forward? And also, are we really tackling corruption, which is really very endemic in our society?
Thank you, Tony. Once again, good day to everyone. The way I want to go about this particular gathering today is to pretend. First of all, I would love to know that maybe somebody at Aso Rock, for some reason or the other, stumble into this, just click on the wrong link, and they are joining us. It'll be great. But the way I want to really approach this discussion is to, since the president apparently schooled in the United States, lived in the United States for a while, I want to approach this as if Mr. President is not the president. He and I just met. I am his nephew, he's my uncle. We just met, say, somewhere in Southside Chicago, somewhere Gary, Indiana, Fort Washington, Maryland. These are places that just by reading and looking things up, I have an idea that the president had lived before. So we met in an American tavern or a deli. And this stubborn nephew wants to talk to his uncle. It is in that spirit that I want us to take whatever I am saying today. I'm going to be a little bit critical. In my mind, Nigeria has been in the wrong direction for a long time. In all fairness, as my uncle and I talking, we're talking about an hypothetical president. What I'll be telling my uncle is, this particular president that's been there for 2.5 years, albeit not his exact 100% fault. I was assuming that for somebody who has had this kind of exposure, who's lived abroad, who's worked for mobile, or things are going to be handled differently in a kind of, let's say, the modern world version of Nigeria, which I think we are capable of doing. Unfortunately, what I've seen in the past 2 years is the soft bigotry of low expectation, as W would say, in a manner that we've lowered the bar in Nigeria so much that things that are not even anywhere near success, unfortunately, we praise them. I'm not gonna be all negative in this conversation, but the reality is, the way I can summarize what I've been observing in the past 2.5 years is a group of leaders who are not really ready for prime time. The reality is Lagos is not Nigeria. The president is in a situation now where he gets to appoint the guy that's in charge of printing money. He doesn't have that kind of power when he was governor of Lagos State. So the reality is, in my opinion, I think the entire cabinet should have been reshuffled. Would you ask yourself, if somebody is going to be honest in their own mind? I mean, I don't live in Nigeria, but my family and friends and college mates, everybody live, and I follow Nigerian news as much as I could. If you ask yourself, are you better off today than you were 3 years ago? Whatever the answer is, solve the problem. I can tell you 90%, maybe 95% of Nigerians will say they are not better off today than they were 3 years ago. It's just the reality. So praising diaspora remittances is not an accomplishment. That's actually a sign of failure. So I'm sure we're going to get into it. I'm not an economist. When we get into social services such as infrastructure, which is what I do here, I may be able to get into a little bit more nuances and details. But overall, I will probably repeat this statement quite a bit. I will tell you, if you ask me, is Nigeria getting better? The answer would be no, not yet. Nigeria is not getting better yet. What is getting better is the patience of the Nigerian people. The people are, to my amazement, extremely patient. So if I were in the know-how, if this administration would listen to somebody who had nobody like me, what I would tell them is the Nigerian people have been extremely patient. You need to get your act together, get ready for prime time, pick real smart Nigerians, people that have accomplished things, people that can combine academics with real life situation out there. So to have an economy where if you cannot explain it to the guys at my put or a motor park, your economy is not working. You got to be able to explain. People that when you look at them on TV, Mr. Dead, you would know this. You live in the United States. Americans are about, what do you know? We don't necessarily care about your degrees in all these GSFN and all these alphabets that we put behind our names in Nigeria. So when you look at someone talking about monetary policy or fiscal policy in front of the people, that run the world, do they sound like they know what they're talking about? Or are they learning as they go? Or are they, as a matter of fact, just doing, this it's like, Yoruba is what comes to my mind to speak now. But it's like these guys are in training. And when you're at federal level, running the most populous Black country on earth, you don't hire people that are going to be, on training to that. You need to dig in, search for people that know what they're doing, regardless of party, regardless of tribe, regardless of. So, what I would say is, in my mind, the country has been in a big mess before this man comes in, or before he came in. But my expectation for him was way higher than this. The way he was advertised, a little bit that we know about him, that he's a creature of, who's studied in the U.S. It baffles me sometimes to think, what is it that our people, our leaders, what is it that they look at when they travel? And they, if they see all these things that are overseas, do they question themselves that how did they accomplish these things? That's where we need to be going. We need to figure out how certain countries become what they are. And this is not about, oh, we only started this 65 years ago. No, no, that's not an excuse at all. So realistically, I think, uh, my usual, Mr. Dediro knows me about this. My usual asking is for the elite. The people that know. You look at any society that has a revolutionized situation and they change from one, it's usually the elites that stick their necks out. Just like what we're doing here. Put your face out there, speak truth to power. You know, we're gonna only live once. So the reality is the elite has to decide whether it's okay for this set of people, Nigerians, millions of people, to be having the kind of lifestyle that our people have, or whether we're actually human beings like everybody else in the places that they travel to. So somebody like me, I can just, mind my business, look at a distance, but that's just not the Nigeria I grew up in. People can argue this back and forth. On a relative basis, was way better than this, because when I first touched down in America, the Nigerian naira was 1 naira to $1.68. So when I say to people that sentence and I tell people what the exchange rate is now, even economics can't figure it out. How in the world did we get to this situation? So the kind of life that I want my people to live is not the kind where everybody's becoming a fine bara kind of people, where the government is touting diaspora remittances. It's one thing for people to be investing back home, starting businesses. But most of those remittances are money being sent to people just for them to be able to eat. And the elites think that's a good thing. So just like, I'll give you one example. A few years ago, I don't remember the name of the estate in Lagos. Apparently, they sent the police to come and do certain demolition or whatever. Okay. When the elites make phone calls, the governor had to show up. The governor showed up and stopped whatever. We don't know how that, but that's the power the elites have. Because these guys running things, they're either their classmates, they know them. If the elites wants to protest things, this is how Tinubu got there. Even though it was military regime and everything, but because he was part of the elite, he was able to speak up. So the Nigerian elite need to get their act together, start speaking up, start actually knowing how to do things, how things work, how the world works. We don't need to put people there because they are our tribe or because they are, our buddies. We need to put competent people in positions. Okay, we need to put people who, if the civil servants tell you, oh, this parastatal or agency money, we put it in our personal account. You need to tell them like, no, this doesn't sound right. And there are people like that in Nigeria that are honest, that are forthright, people that are not, corrupt. As corrupt as everybody wants to think Nigeria is, there are people. You just need to dig and find them, and that's what they do overseas. That's what they do here. The people that end up in the cabinet, they're not politicians, and the people that voted for them, they understand that. So we need to educate our people that it's not about reward. It's not about putting people that are our friends or family. It's about competence, somebody who actually know how to do things. Okay, so let me leave it there for now. But as you can tell, if you can hear me, Mr. Dedio.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, good. So as you can tell, in my mind, Nigeria is not getting better in the last 2 years, 2.5 years. But I think it can. I mean, ultimately, if we have time, I'm going to suggest one or two things free of charge that if the government will implement it, there are laws, Nigerian laws right now, that they will immediately start creating millions of jobs.
Okay,
Millions.
let's put it
So
like that
hopefully
for
we'll
now.
get there. Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get there.
I'm very
Thank
conscious
you.
of time. And what I did for the first part of this session was to give our panelists a lot of time.
Great.
From this point moving forward, I would implore our panelists to be straight to the point, to keep things really short. We are really running out of time, and we are not really moving really well with all the questions that we have. The second thing is, I want to point out that when we have our events like this People's Parliament, we are not just looking at the problems. We also want to look at the solutions. But before we start looking at the solutions, if we had a session and we didn't talk about security, then we know we haven't really done a very good job. Probably the most critical question in Nigeria today is, are lives and property safe? Is the government doing enough? And this question goes to you first. And I think we need a lot of people to participate as well. Drop your point, your notes in the chat window. Muyiwa Kayode, what's going on with the security situation? How would you rate the government? Is the government doing enough?
Well, I think whatever rating you want to rate the government, it has to come from results, because at the end of the day, it's the results that really matter. And is the government doing enough? No, I don't think so. And it's concerning because the security question has a multiplier effect on the economy, on food security, and so many other aspects of our collective existence. I don't think they are resting on their oars, but I think a lot more needs to be done, and I would be looking at government ultimately overhauling the entire security system of the country. The entire security architecture of the country needs to be redesigned. I know for so many years we've been talking about the establishment of state police, and some people have been saying yes, some people have been saying no. But what we currently have, because this challenge keeps recurring, it will be put under control, and then some couple of years later, it will rear its ugly head again. So I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the security architecture of the country. And I think it is absolutely necessary to carry out a complete overhaul. If the establishment of state police, which I think is being taken more seriously now, there's a recent meeting of governors, about 17 southern governors, that unanimously advocated for the establishment of state police. The uh, the framework for that and the usual approval process going through the House of Assembly and all of that may delay things a bit, but I think something as fundamental as that needs to be done to put this problem not just under control, but to ensure that we don't have to deal with this maybe every 4 or 5 years.
All right. So something needs to be done. It's concerning. But you did point out, Muyiwa, that it also affects the economy. It does have an impact on investment and capital. And I'll take this question to you, Professor Okay. What has been the impact of insecurity on the Nigerian economy under this administration?
Insecurity negatively impacts, the economy. Okay, successive governments have been moving around, junketing the world, looking for foreign direct investors. Investors will not come where there is high insecurity, kidnapping, banditry. They will not come. I'm not surprised that, no matter what we do, these guys are not coming. That is one effect. Of course, it also has affected some farms divesting, moving out of this country. That's one of the things that they are looking at. Because a typical foreign investor has the whole world as a platform to invest. The American will go to Canada. It doesn't have to come to Africa. So, and that is why I'm not surprised that most foreign direct investments are going to developed countries. Of course, you have China, you have India, South Africa. These are the exceptions because they are more stable. Insecurity is not their problem. So it has affected our drive for foreign direct investment. Of course, it has also affected the existing farms. A lot of farms are divesting because you can't be sure of what is happening. As Nigerian, I feel so sad that we've come to this this end. I mean, to this point. It's saddening that the government is perhaps, feeling helpless. That's annoying. We spend so much money, to get firepower for the armed forces. What has happened to them? Why are we not using them? I say uncoordinated, activities within the armed forces. You can't just be using the army all the time. What happened to the navy, to the taking light? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
Yes, they just took light there. So, I mean, what happened to the Air Force? What happened to intelligence gathering? What happened to the drones that we got? And these guys are emboldened. They talk all over the place. They've taken over quite a lot of local governments in Katsina. I mean, I think we're not doing enough. It has implications for the drive of foreign direct investment. It has implications. What money that should have been used, are now being given to some funny characters called bandits and kidnappers. You can imagine the huge sums that are being given to the bandits regularly. What could have been used judiciously to power growth in the economy. I must tell you what happened recently, in Kebbi, in Kwara, and the rest of them, how we got these people out without damaging consequences on the kidnappers, on these bandits. Apparently, there must be a settlement. Apparently, ransoms were paid to get these guys out. And what is happening is that we're furthering, emboldening these people, empowering them. They have more money now to buy more ammunition and things like that. So it has serious implications for the Nigerian economy because it's driving out, investors and those farms within. People can't even invest. You can't go to the north. I won't take my money to the north and invest, for instance, because of this, endemic, banditry and all that. It's moved from northeast, is spread to northwest, and going to Kwara Central. So it has serious implications for investment locally, for foreign investors. We will not, nobody in the South will want to go to the North and invest because they can be kidnapped. Anything can happen. So I think we're not doing enough. Government is not doing enough. Government should be doing more than what is happening, what is doing at the moment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the government is not doing enough. Thank you. I see that some people dropped thoughts in the chat window. Professor Wale Oladoshi said that despite the success achieved so far, corruption is still very high in Nigeria. Contracts are inflated, and for the man on the street, they're not really feeling the government that much. Prices of goods have not dropped, as it's still hard for a lot of Nigerians to appreciate the policies of the government. And Gabriel, you mentioned that you can agree less. The present administration has greatly improved the economic situation. But but how bad it was from late Buhari, that it's a carryover. The problems we face today are carried over from the previous administration, and that yeah, the level of insecurity is quite unbelievable. And Abiola, I think that's Dr. Abiola. Yeah, you've been with us before. Thanks for coming again. You said the economy is damaged and affected by poor governance and corruption, but we must also take the macroeconomic financial factors into consideration. We are not and have never been equal to the developed countries. With that in mind, with that patriotism rather than individualism is really important. We've lost that, and I've not educated nor been educated to realize that. And Bumi, last name unknown, you said you are really surprised by the first two speakers to say that Nigeria is heading in the right direction with the hunger, poverty in Nigeria, vis-a-vis the looting and stealing going on among our politicians. And yeah, there are further comments there. Keep it coming. We will try to, I wish that we had a lot of time to do this, but we don't. We unfortunately need to begin to land. We need to begin to wrap up. But we are not going to rush the wrap up. We'll give ourselves sometimes, the way I'm going to take it is not to go through prepared questions. We would not be able to go through all of them. The way I'm going to take it is let's begin to look at what is going well that we should continue. And what are the things that are not going well that we need to fix? And I'm just going to make it, I'm going to leave it to the panelists to pick any area of the Nigerian governmental structure or even the society, even maybe the problem is on the side of the citizens. What are the things that you'd like to see? I'll probably say three things that you like to see done differently in Nigeria to make the government work for the people. If you were like an advisor to this government and they ask you to give them three things that you'd like to see, what would those three things be? I'll first go to you, James.
Do not count this as one of my three things. The security issue. I want to make a little bit comment about the security issue. I mean, I somewhat agree with the two panelists that spoke before me. You got to be putting your head in the sand to think that Nigeria is secure right now. Of course, it's not. We all know that. Now, this is the one area that I would say, is it the fault of the current president? Apparently not. I mean, Boko Haram has been, around for a while now. Now, the only issue that I may have with this president when it comes to security is, which is, and it goes for a lot of other things, but particularly as the commander-in-chief, the president needs to step to the mic and speak to the people rather than speaking to foreigners. You saw what happened when some lunatic came over to Washington, D.C. the other day and shot two young National Guard guys. So immediately the president stepped to the podium, whether you like Trump or not, or whether you like the way he talks or not, stepped to the podium, spoke passionately about this 20-year-old, and one of them, apparently the girl just died. We need to see our president in Nigeria stepping up to the mic, with maybe flanked with generals, comforting people. It's all part of the job of being a president. I mean, we all see the way they do it elsewhere. So that's really, I think this is where I say half bread is enough for the wise in that regard. The president needs to step up, speak up, condemn these things, and let the people feel what you're doing, not necessarily divulging the secrecy of security services, but you need to talk to us, because what I've seen is from campaigning in England to all of a sudden we put our tail in between our legs to come and explain why we are doing things wrong. And I'll tell you this, the reason in my mind that I think America is coming to Nigeria is a matter of stop it over there. before it comes over here. That's not part of my three things.
Yeah.
Quickly, on infrastructure, I'm about to start creating jobs now. Okay, Mr. President, I don't know what the name of the law is. I should have jot a few things down so that I can quote them directly. In America, there's something called the ADA, American with Disability Act. Okay, this is the law that deals with how your, anybody that's traveled, how your sidewalk looks, handicap accessibility for the blind. If you own any kind of business that, hired X number of people, all of these laws are there so that that 1 or 2% disabled people, you can cater for them. But guess what happened? You see all these kids on roller skateboard, you see people when you're walking on the sidewalk and it's so comfortable. The reason that, they gave was the ADA, but guess what? It benefits everybody else. Do we have a situation in Nigeria where this same law that I just described, I don't know what it's called in Nigeria, but if the government step up or the Minister of Works step to the podium right now and say, we're going to start enforcing this law, starting with government buildings, the periphery of the government buildings. The next will be banks and commercial institutions, that all of them must comply with the Nigerian with Disability Act, if that's what it's called. You know what's going to happen? There's going to be a lot of construction. You can say I'm selfish here. For architects, engineers, artisans, and people that are going to sell food for them, people that are going to sell uniform for them, people are going to start having money to participate better on the weekends. Some of these terrorists, when they find work, that pays well. You have to pay people well too. That's what I found that with the elites also. The elites, they complain about the government, but they pay people peanuts. Peanuts. Some people pay people 20,000 naira a year, a month. So some of these things are already there, low-hanging fruit, as they would call it. So what I just described, if we have time, I can talk about the details of it, not on this particular program, for an hour. This will create all over Nigeria millions of jobs. Mr. President, I will tell you, please, not postponement, scrap the Lagos-Calabar highway. Scrap it. Let's stop the bleeding. Okay, we know we already spent some money. Just stop it. Take that money to do what I just described. Spread it out all over the country. We don't need Lagos-Calabar highway. What we need is the roads that go to the hinterland, roads that go to the farm, rural electrification. These are things people will say, oh, privatize this, privatize this. Mr. Dead, you know me. You cannot privatize what's not there. America didn't get to privatize things before, when they're not in existence. There's nobody that has money that's going to come and build roads from here to Timbuktu. People just don't do that. That's the government's job. That's the reason why, as I speak, 95 to 97% of American roads are owned by either the federal government, state government, county government, which is what we call local government in Nigeria. This is what I do. It's a fact. There's nobody like Bill Gates building roads out there. They just don't, that's not what they do. Now, after you build certain roads, certain toll roads, you can have, some entities say, okay, we're going to take over this road and maintain it, but we're going to charge people. And that's just gravy. That's just for convenience, But the roads that people drive on, Dwight D. Eisenhower was the one that everybody cooked in the U.S. Did the when it came
Can I ask you to please hurry
to,
up a little bit and get
to hurry up.
the
So
yeah.
when it comes to infrastructure, I can tell you about the detail. And also, I'm going to make one statement right now. For goodness sake, in Nigeria, and for most of Nigerian soil, the laterite kind of soil that we have, concrete is the worst. If you can get Umari on the phone with, on any debate, I'm going to break it down to him that concrete is not the best material for constructing roads. So these are the areas where our elites need to speak up. I'm sure there are people that agree with me that know these things.
Yeah, just as a background, to that, the Nigerian government made a regulation recently, I think about a year ago, that all roads in Nigeria must now be built with concrete.
It's nonsense.
Instead of asphalt. That's the background to your
that
statement.
is nonsense. That is because again, this has to be science. You have to back it up with science. The kind of soil that we have, the way concrete behaves versus asphalt. Really? I mean, these are things that I'm telling you, I'm sure our professors knows this, our people know this. So, and the kind of way that we do construction in Nigeria is so unbelievable because there should be a lot of checks and balances to do things, even the design. Road is not just the pavement. There are a lot of peripheral things that people don't know is part of the design. Why the roads in England or America or all these advanced countries, why they do not get damaged. It's about the design, and the method means the method of construction. You develop your country by asking the best of the people in your country to come out and give their expertise, not rewarding your buddies. Your buddies, you can give them some position that doesn't affect people. I'm talking about things that affect people. Our infrastructure, for goodness sake, Nigeria is talking about 5 to 10 thousand megawatts of electricity. For goodness sake, America that we are trying to emulate has 1.2 million megabytes capacity. We're floating around 10. So if you were to extrapolate the population of America and Nigeria, you would say we should have 2/3 of 1.2 million megawatts of electricity. Can Nigeria get up to like 20 megawatts in 5 years? Yes, they can. People just have to understand that when the masses, the general population, when they do well, everybody do well. Rather than that mentality of individualism and selfishness, we need to grow our institutions, such that the same law that would govern the child of the poor will be the same law that will govern the child of the king or the elite.
Talking about the rule of law now. Yeah,
correct.
We have to wrap it up.
I think I've managed to swing between infrastructure and to the rule of law. So realistically, in my mind, even though it seems like I'm criticizing the government, I think Nigeria has the talent, it has the brain power, it has everything that it needs to be able to do well. We just have to get our elites, talk to each other, to make up our mind. Like what we see overseas, our people actually deserve something similar to those, and we just, to try and figure it out in a way that it will match our culture.
I will move on to Muyiwa Kayode. In your view, 3 things. You are sitting in front of President Tinubu. What are the 3 things that you'd like to see?
Okay, thanks. I'm going to use my book as a reference point here. Everything I think the government should be doing, I've written about it. And it's a good thing you said three things, because my book, Brand Nation, is focusing on the 3P principles of nation building. So I broke it down into 3 pillars. Now, before I explain these 3 pillars, when Tinubu became president, one of his acceptance in one of his inaugural speeches or acceptance speeches, he made a statement that resonated with me in a way that no other previous president has ever done. He said, Nigeria, that we have been called the giant of Africa, that we should move from just being called giant of Africa, and we should begin to do the things that giants do. What that tells me is that we have a visionary president. Because if I were president of this country today, there are certain things that God has blessed us with, being the most populous Black nation, the biggest, the biggest economy in Africa. Now, there are certain things we should be doing, and there are certain ways we should be thinking. Okay? And that is why I disagree very strongly with Mr. James about stopping that coastal road, because that is a mega project. It is a PPP project. So this idea that government is pumping money there and that money should be used elsewhere is misleading, because a lot of 70% of it is private sector driven, and the road will be tolled. And when you look at the massive economic impact on that axis, that road, let me just give you an example closer to home, the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. When that road was opened, I remember many years ago, we used to go to some of those beaches along that axis. You will drive for 20 minutes, barely seeing any buildings. When that road was opened up, it completely transformed the entire Lekki axis up until Ekpe. Property prices appreciated, businesses moved to that axis. Today, the largest refinery in Africa, possibly in the world, that everybody is talking about, is built in that axis. And as long as this man is president, Mr. James, let me disappoint you, he will continue to think big, because that is how a so-called giant of Africa should be thinking. We should be doing big things. And we have the resources, we have the people, we have the capacity to do big things. And when it is necessary for foreign partners, we have willing partners that are coming in to partner with us to do those big things. So in my book, one of the things I wrote there is that being the biggest country on the African continent, we should align the brand nation, the nation brand, Nigeria as a brand. We should align it with doing big things. If we want to build a stadium, we must build the best, biggest stadium in Africa. If we want to build a hospital, we must build the best, biggest in Africa. And if we apply that mentality to some of the major things we do, the narratives will change. And then you can walk around the world as a Nigerian and you are proud, because then we have things to talk about. We have the biggest refinery in the world right now, and that is something everybody is proud of. It is not owned by government, it's private sector driven. So back to those 3 things. The 3 pillars articulated in my book are people, places, and products. People means that we need to invest in our people. And when we apply that thinking, that giant thinking, you want to ensure that we have the best universities on the continent. It's a no-brainer. And we should. We have no excuse not to. And we should position as such. Anything that we do that is the biggest or the best on the continent. We should have the biggest airport in Africa. It's a no-brainer. That should even go without asking. I know that if the government embarks on anything now that they say they want to build the biggest hospital in Africa, a lot of people will say, is that what we're going to eat? Give the money to people to eat. Or is that a priority? It is a priority. It is an absolute priority. Investing in our people, investing in our places. By that I mean destination branding. Because when you look at for so many years, the tallest building in the world was built in Dubai. Do you know what that has done to their tourism? Do you know how many people go there just because of that building alone? So this idea that when government is building massive infrastructure, it is not a priority. I strongly disagree with that, because those things have massive economic value. Secondly, investing in our places, that is destination marketing. Then the third one is products, investing in our products so that we can redefine what proudly made in Nigeria means and sell it not only within Nigeria, but to the rest of the world. I'm going to pause here because of time. Thank you.
So invest in our people, invest in places, and invest in products. That's what you tell this administration to focus on. Lastly, we'll go to Professor Babatunde. Okay. What are the three things
thank you.
you'd like to see?
Thank you very much. It's a no-brainer, really, that we need to fix this insecurity. It's number one priority. Okay, government must do everything in its power to fix insecurity, intelligence gathering, coordination, of course, in the armed forces, the army, the navy, and the rest of them work together to ensure that they, remove this irritant, from Nigeria. I'm old enough to know that a well-secured Nigeria is possible. I've moved around Nigeria without any problem, but you can't do that now. And that basically is impacting on our productivity. You can't move anywhere. Look at agriculture and food security. Okay, most farmers are out of their farms. I have a farm. I cannot go there again because I don't want to be kidnapped. And that is impacting on the food inflation. A hungry man is an hungry man. The major thing, everybody must eat. So we have to ensure that security is handled properly and on time. It's dragged for too long. And that is why when we hear Trump, talking about this, begin to wonder, as a leader, I will be so angry with myself. I can't be president, and we've seen some funny guys, moving around and making jest even of the country, taking over some critical local governments in this country. So it has to be fixed. And importantly, the implication for agriculture and food security. We can't be importing food. Food inflation is so high because of this insecurity, and I think that has to stop. Also, I want the president to look at the human capital investment. Okay, we've said that a lot. We have gains of this, petroleum subsidy removal and all that. And I think here we've mentioned that, okay, the state governments are huge beneficiaries of this. They're making so much money, but it's that it has not trickled down to the people. And that is where the Tinubu administration has missed it. We are moving this look at what happens before. We've had gains like this, and these were better used than the governors who are practically, I'm sorry to say, irresponsible. We've not seen, apart from Lagos, maybe, Abia, we've not really seen any serious government state government doing much with this. So there has to be a way of giving this dividend to the people. And one of the ways of making people to benefit is to invest in human capital. Okay, we want to see investment in education, investment in health. Okay, my brother spoke earlier, talked about having, hospitals and all that. By now, we should stop this health tourism. It's one thing our leaders are gone abroad, and all that. It has to stop. Why can't we have, health facilities, modern, top-notch in Nigeria? What does it cost? Okay, this has to stop such that apart from reducing, the movement, the costs, having to travel, the pressure on foreign exchange and all that, it's also better to be taken care of by ourselves. When you go abroad, you see a lot of Nigerians, doctors handling these people. So why can't we invest in Nigeria health, sector? And I don't see what the problem is. So we need to spend a lot of money. And I know that government have been approached by different people, okay, but they are not, looking into that direction. I don't know. I guess they are more comfortable traveling abroad and all that. Well, what does it benefit you when you go abroad and you're being taken care of by Nigerians? So that is another thing that has to be looked at. So in doing that, there has to ring-fence spending on health and education. Ensure that what is budgeted is actually spent, and it has to be moved up. Okay, government is removing its hands in tertiary education, licensing more private institutions and all that. And now you see that a lot of poor people, children cannot come to our universities anymore. In the university, you have to pay like over 200,000 or thereabout to get, a school fees. They're not calling it school fees, but that is the kind of amount that you spend now in our universities. How many poor people, poorly paid, citizens can afford that? So we are tending towards the private sector, and governments need to do more. So that's my second in terms of after the security and of course the food. It's imperative also to invest locally, to patronize our local goods. Okay, one of the reasons why we're having problems with the foreign exchange, we're having foreign exchange volatility. If you look at the structure of Nigerian economy, we are monocultural and we are also import dependent. We depend on importation of everything. Why won't we import when we can't even go to farm? We can't even get the raw materials to produce locally and all that. So it's imperative for government to promote local industries, to encourage them so that we can mobilize resources locally. That is very, very important. So the pressure we're putting on the foreign exchange, okay, we definitely reduce. If we can produce more, and we are patronizing our locally made goods. Look at what is happening. We have local, assembly plants and all that. And every year, our National Assembly lawmakers are importing Toyota and all that. In the past, during the Obasanjo's regime, we used to patronize what? Pojo. And that will also reduce the pressure on the foreign exchange market. It's also not tidy that we are still importing fuel. Okay, when we have a very big refinery in Nigeria, I can't just phantom. Okay, the importation is still high, and that's one of the reasons when this guy was coming on board, I was so happy that we can have local production rather than importing from abroad and all that. In any case, what we are importing is not even of high quality. But what is still happening, we're still importing so much. So government, I want the Tinubu administration to fix that as well, to ensure that we have zero importation of fuel. What do we need that for? Of course, I do know that modular refineries have been encouraged to come on board, not only the Dangote, you have also the BUA and the rest of them. Encourage them, let them come up so I can give, kind of competition to Dangote, and we just remove all this importation of fuel and all that. That's my take, moderator.
Thank you very much. You also kind of touched on the citizen component. Nigerians want a good exchange rate. At the same time, Nigerians want to consume imported goods. I think that's probably one side of our citizenship that we need to re-examine as well. Now, we would now try to wrap up. If anyone has any question for our panelists or any comments, you may please raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. Any questions from our participants? Questions from the audience, please? There are no hands raised, but I see a lot of, the chat window has been on fire. There are a lot of current comments. We will not even have enough time to go through all of these comments. And if there are no questions or additional comments, I will just go around our panelists to ask them to give us their parting shot within 1 minute, not more than 1 minute. Please, let's keep to time. And okay, there is a question here, and that's going to be from Gabriel. Go ahead, introduce yourself, and I ask you to unmute yourself, and yeah, ask your question or comment or make your comment.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My question is quite simple and very basic. We've mentioned a few policies here and there, and I want to ask politely. We've been hearing these policies from time memorial. I remember the era of Vision 2000, Vision 220, and all of that. When should we honestly be expecting many of these policies to begin to translate into realities for the citizens? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, all kinds of long-term strategy. When should they begin to yield food for the citizens? That is packed, is loaded. If we can just tackle that very quickly, not any of the participants, any of the panelists is free to jump in.
For the purpose of this conversation today, I think we dwelt majorly on policies of the Tinubu administration. So I think Vision 2010, Vision 2030, and all of those things are beyond the scope of this conversation. Having said that, I also dwelt on all this vision, that in my book. And the long and short of what I said was that, look, I don't believe in all this Vision 2010, Vision 2020. There was one particular one, I think it was Vision 2010, that the policy document for that Vision 2010 was 1,500 pages. And I was asking myself, if you put 1,500 pages on the table of the president, at what time is he going to read it? And then how is he even going to be able to begin to implement? Those kind of ways of articulating vision, I don't agree with it. And that's one of the reasons I think those things never amounted to anything in the past. I want a vision document that tells me that, look, if you are a civil servant and you work for 10 years, you will comfortably educate 4 children and own, at the very minimum, a 3-bedroom apartment that belongs to you. I want vision that tells me that the person on minimum wage is guaranteed a certain minimum standard of living, all things considered. And you now put in place measures of implementation that actually makes that happen. I don't believe in Vision 2010 that says that by 2010 or by 2020, Nigeria will become the 3rd biggest economy in the world. No, those things don't necessarily, you have to put it in a way and implement it in a way that translates to tangible value to the man on the street. That's the way I believe that all these visions should be articulated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any of the other panelists want to have a go at the question raised by Citizen Gabriel?
I want to add something. I think it's all about implementation. We've had great visions, great documents in the past, but implementation has been lacking. We want to see leaders, visionary leaders like Lee Kuan Yew, okay, that will transform this nation, that will put in place actionable policies, and will live by it. You can't be telling people to tighten their belts and your belt is so loose. That is when you're building villas for vice president for 3, at a time. It doesn't make sense. So our National Assembly, they are living large. You're giving millions to them. Why minimum wage is what? 70 that is not implemented. I think it's lack of interest, lack of empathy. Our leaders should be those that are empathic. Our leaders should be those that want to see changes, not just to get to a position of authority. We want to see changes. You can't be a leader and you're seeing this insecurity all over for how many years? I can't imagine, even as bad as Obasanjo, as bad as they say that people criticize Obasanjo, I'm not sure he will be sitting down, he'll be a sitting president, and all this rubbish is happening. You can't see, people are suffering. People are really suffering. And the visionary leader must implement these good, policies. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of policies, although there aren't been, enough engagement, because you don't engage the people. Stakeholders engagement is almost lacking in all these visions they just put together by civil servants and all that. You need to engage the people. People need to own. Ownership is very important. You need to engage them, tell them why you are doing what you want to do, or why you are doing what you are doing, and things like that. So they have their buy-in. They will be there, but that is lacking. So I think we are still having divisions and all that because we don't have those who are really interested in, leading this country. Okay, look at Lincoln Yu, from third world country to first world. He took drastic decisions, and Singapore is better for it. So until we get that kind of person who will be interested in really driving this nation, we continue to have the vision in paper without implementation, without it trickle down to the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yeah, you had it there, Gabriel. One point is that the visions are not even well articulated. They're too long, difficult to implement, and also but it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be visionary leadership. It doesn't mean that we should not have strategy. It's just that we need to do better with how we implement it. It's not just for civil servants to draw up some document. It's for the leader to actually have a vision. With that said, we will now wrap up. We've really, really run out of time. And I'll start with you, Mr. James Aderoju. In 1 minute, not more than 1 minute. Give us your parting shot.
Once again, thanks for having me. I'm going to quickly spend a few seconds of my 1 minute responding to one of the panelists mentioned my name. So I think I should be given a couple of seconds to respond to that. Now, build things, big things, is not the problem, okay? Building the wrong big things is the problem. A coastal superhighway, whatever you want to call it, at this point, at this time in Nigerian history, is the wrong thing to build. What I would call big things is to say, Mr. President, step to the podium. We're going to do 50,000 kilometers of feeder roads, the roads where people actually drive on, roads where you can bet goes to our farms, where people drive on, not necessarily, where the elite drive at Lekki. So realistically, what I'm about is any policy that will benefit the most amount, the most possible amount of people. So you can chew gum and walk at the same time. But the big things that Nigeria needs to be doing right now is President step to the podium and say, in the next 2 to 5 years, we're going to have 25,000 megawatts of electricity. That's doing big things. If the president say, I'm going to do 20 to 50,000 kilometers of feeder roads into the hinterland, that's a big thing. Part of my infrastructure thing that I touched on earlier will be, are we actually in a situation where we can hire, regardless of what your major in college, we can hire a bunch of kids, train them for like a couple of months as inspectors and put them out there to go and inspect whether our gasoline has lead. Why in the world is Nigeria still using asbestos to build homes? Why in the world do we have, in a tropical country, do we have all this red clay soil that children are playing on? It is actually illegal. I think I mentioned it in another forum. It's actually illegal in the US when you build a house to have the surrounding of your house in dirt. You either pave it or do landscaping. And again, all of these things that I'm saying is not because I'm nice. These are things that will create a lot of jobs. And there are people that work as a gardener when I was a kid. And that's what they did with pride. The people that work as janitors with pride, they do it, dignity in any kind of labor, and they were able to, feed their family. They're not engaging in banditry and all this stuff. So what I would advise Mr. President is to look at the low-hanging fruits, things that are already right there. It doesn't require much money to do them. And the elites also needs to, again, start thinking about how it's not just about them. It's not supposed to be just so selfish. You live in a country where you don't even know what goes in the gasoline to your car. You don't even know if the paint that is used to paint your house has lead. I'm saying all these things because these are things that are illegal in the real world. Do things that will benefit the masses, and the byproduct, really, it will benefit them too. So that's where what I would advise the president. Low-hanging fruit, Mr. President. There are a lot of things that are so easy to do.
Next is Muyiwa Kayode. Give us your parting shot.
Well, I think I have more or less summed up my take on some of the major conversations for today. I really don't have any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And over to you.
It's all right. I think we should not even look far. Governments must be reminded about what the Constitution says about governance. It says that the purpose of governance is what? Welfare and security. The purpose of governance to ensure adequate security and welfare of the citizens. So these are the priorities. Government should channel whatever policies, whatever actions towards achieving these two objectives. If government is not achieving this, no matter whatever is building and all that, is not meeting the purpose of governance in Nigeria. That is in the Constitution. We don't need to go far. That is a mandate the government has. Provide security. Let people, the welfare of the people is the priority. These are the two things, major planks of governance in Nigeria as entrenched in the Constitution. So that should be the purpose. So as long as we are not achieving this, we are having bad governance. And that's my parting shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being part of this powerful session of the People's Parliament. We have looked at the current administration in Nigeria. We have looked at it dispassionately. In some areas, our panelists and our participants, the audience, have agreed. In a lot of other areas, we disagreed, which is quite normal. It means that we really have, we all have the same intent and the same wishes for Nigeria to do well, but we differ. How to get there? Whether Nigeria is getting better or not depends on evidence, on accountability, on the actions of leaders, and particularly on the actions of those of us who are citizens. Let's continue the conversation. For those who are in our WhatsApp group, we can continue the conversation there. We also have a Facebook group. You can go to our website, rescue.ng, to follow or to participate in all the kinds of conversations that go on social media. I want to say once again, thank you to our panelists, Mr. Muyiwa Kayode, Mr. James Aderejo, and Professor Babatunde Uke. Thank you so much to all of our participants as well, the audience. We may be a small group, but we are having an impact. We are doing our part as citizens. We hope at Rescue Nigeria that citizens will really take their place and begin to engage. And those of us who have some benefits of education, we really hope that we'll go out and talk to the people and share ideas and let them know what's going on. Let's get our people to begin to think right, because without good citizenship, it is difficult to have good leadership. In an organization, we believe that good citizenship is the bedrock and the foundation for good leadership and a good country. So until the next time, let's keep engaging, let's keep demanding, let's keep believing in Nigeria. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good rest of the evening.